Welcome, everyone. So in the last week, there was a really good question about dual relationships, working with devotees. And so I thought I'd address that first. And then we're going to do self-care, listening and communication, handling empathy, clearing a couple of common metaphysical challenges, and also a brain spotting expansion with Rasangi is another way to connect to your soul. So that's today's agenda. Um, so dual relationships. My understanding is that the strong emphasis on avoiding dual relationships partially or mostly arose out of psychoanalytic therapy and talk therapy, where the relationship and the role of transference and countertransference provide the basis of the therapy. And it seems to be a lot less emphasized with the experiential trauma-focused therapies like mindfulness, brain spotting, and internal family systems. That said, licensed therapists may need to attend to the ethics guidelines of their profession and use their own judgment. In school, we covered a number of instances where dual relationships are unavoidable, like small rural communities, when someone's a therapist in a small rural community, church-based therapists, which working with devotees is, a similar situation. I personally know a church-based therapist who attends that church and she knows the congregation. Also island communities like we have on Maui and in the various islands of Hawaii. Our main teachers for the master's program I did are a couple, and they're the two psychologists and therapists for the small island community of Lanai, where they live there. So for them, it's impossible to not to know practically everyone or everyone there, and yet they still do their work. So it's, it's not a, all dual relationships and all circumstances are forbidden situation. There are certain suggestions to navigate, like one is when running into a client or someone's working with who is previously only known through the therapy, it's advised to pretend not to know them unless they initiate contact, like running into them at the store or somewhere. And I try to let them know that will be the case so that they don't feel snubbed and they can, you know, initiate contact. So, and I personally don't discuss the therapy session outside of the therapy appointment. So if I run into someone, it's light, it's social, and I try to avoid saying, "How are you?" with a very concerned tone of voice or expression. So, um, so with devotees, I go by the comfort of devotee clients and ask them if they're okay that we will see each other at kirtan programs, temple, etc. And so far, I maintain confidentiality about the therapeutic aspect of the relationship, and there hasn't been a problem. So that's the I rarely do therapy with my innermost circle of friends or family. That's a personal choice. I know people who are very comfortable working with friends, family, everyone. Um, I, I would definitely make an exception if there was a devotee friend who, couldn't get support unless it's me, like they're only comfortable working with a devotee and maybe I'm the only trauma-informed devotee therapist who takes their insurance. So if a devotee wants to completely avoid dual relationships and still wants to help devotees, online sessions with devotees who live elsewhere are an option. Helping devotees in Ukraine and other heavily trauma-impacted areas is also a possibility. The trainer for the expansion brain spotting training I just did a couple of days ago, this 2-day training, mentioned Ukraine and the importance of finding the part who wants to live. So she's done quite a bit of work with Ukrainians. So now we'll go into another resource. This is the breathing practice of the day for today. Go ahead and note your stress level, 0 to 10. And we'll do some alternate nostril breathing. So one thing that's helpful to remember with alternate nostril breathing, it's a yoga practice, is to alternate on the inhale. So, and use the right thumb and ring finger. So here I am inhaling my left nostril, alternating. And inhaling. And alternating. Focusing on the heart. And that's brief. An Ayurvedic doctor I recently heard from suggested 3 to 5 minutes a day. And then he said, but don't pay too much attention on the clock. Pay attention to your heart. Focus on your heart. So notice if there's a shift just from that little bit of alternate nostril breathing. It's very balancing on that 0 to 10. So the next section is exercise for self-care. I tell my clients to who don't already exercise regularly, especially aerobic exercise, to find something that they love or at least like that happens to be exercise and do it often. Ayurveda recommends enough exercise and not too much. So excess is discouraged. Examples with some devotional examples, maybe japa walks. A lot of the senior acharyas and sadhus have a morning walk. Dancing in kirtan or to recorded kirtans, swimming, which is considered a Vaishnav sport, hiking, running, biking, aerobic spin and dance classes, etc. You will definitely be more motivated if it's something that you like. And some people like going to the gym and, spending time on the elliptical or, one of the aerobic. They did a meta-analysis of studies. That's where they, study a whole bunch of studies and then come to conclusions. And they found that aerobic exercise outperforms both anti-anxiety and antidepressive medication. So that's impressive. And here's a quote from an article in Medical News Today, March 3rd, 2023. Physical activity is 1.5 times more effective at reducing mild to moderate symptoms of depression, psychological stress, and anxiety than medication or cognitive behavioral therapy, according to the study's lead author. So that's huge. So I definitely, mention that with people that I work with. Next section, super emphasized in school as being really important, and important especially to remember for devotees who are helping other devotees, for helpers, healers who love helping other people, who are super satisfied. It can be challenging for those super compassionate, helpful, wonderful people and devotees to remember to take care of themselves. So if you care for others and don't take care of yourself as a helper, you will not be the best example of what you're trying to impart. Like if you suggest exercise and don't ever exercise, or and chances are you'll burn out. So I've definitely seen that happening with a couple of colleagues. Some of the things I do, along with devotional gatherings for self-care, are japa walks, frequent snorkels in the ocean. Of course, on Maui here, the ocean is readily available. I know Srila Prabhupada said if you can swim in the ocean every day, he said you should swim in the ocean every day. And I pretty much take that to heart. Kayaking and swimming with friends, kayaking with whales, dancing and hiking up mountains, through forests and to waterfalls. And also one of my self-cares is writing devotional poetry. So I find I'm much more inspired if I'm in nature by flowing water, streams, waterfalls. So I've also found, healthy prasad. I take some nutritional supplements and plenty of water. Not too much water. That same Ayurvedic doctor said a gallon is too much. A gallon a day is too much. This is, an overload for the system. So again, moderation. I show up as a better caregiver for others when I consistently do these things. For many, self-care includes the importance of having a creative outlet. As I mentioned, for me, that's poetry. Some people, love to draw, paint, play musical instruments, kirtan, so many different possibilities, writing in general, so many different possibilities for a creative outlet. That can also help. Journaling can help. So self-care also means not taking it too personally when someone projects their issues onto the caregiver. So this can happen. It tends to happen more often for people with what's called, borderline symptoms. So, there's like for licensed therapists, there's a whole personality diagnosis for that. I'm going to approach it more from a parts perspective, so it's less pathologizing. So from a parts perspective, there's a part who's experienced maybe neglect, abandonment, wants love and attention, and is very good at bringing someone close. They're just like the person's best friend kind of feeling. Then there's another part who is threatened by closeness. It's not safe. Maybe we could get abandoned again, or maybe we could get hurt. And so that part is like a bouncer. That part will push away or reject someone who seems to get too close. And, I experienced this recently. Someone was like, oh, your therapy is so wonderful. It's magical. It's incredible. And I'm thinking, oh, this is the happiest client in the world. And then, I I made a mistake. The person was talking about how Jesus is God, and I just, from a devotee perspective, I said, well, he's the son of God, you know, and that was enough to completely get fired as the therapist. And so relationships with someone with borderline symptoms tend to be unstable. For a therapist or other helper, it can be challenging to be put on a pedestal and praised, followed by criticism and or rejection at some perceived mistake or slight. So it's helpful to not take this personally. And I know from personal experience that's easier said than done. So handling empathy, a lot of devotees are empaths. So if you're not an empath and you work with devotees, I can pretty much guarantee you'll run into empaths. So for an empath, self-care becomes even more important to prevent burnout and illness. If you are not yourself an empath, well, I mentioned that already. Yeah, you will come across empaths helping devotees. Empathy is actually compassion is seeing someone suffering and having a desire to help. Empathy is a little different. So empathy is actually feeling the suffering of others, usually in one's own body. So empaths, if they're not managing the energy, tend to be sponges for other people's pain. And it can make them, even better healers or more powerful healers. And there's a cost. So, and sometimes it can get in the way of therapy if, uh, over being, too much feeling the other person's pain and not having the compassionate perspective. So, yeah, many empaths struggle with being a sponge for the pain of others. Studies suggest empaths have more mirror neurons, so there's also a physiological aspect. And I've mentioned that to a couple of empaths, and they found that extremely helpful because they've not always been understood by their spouses, by friends, and knowing that, oh yeah, I have more mirror neurons, so there's a reason why I'm feeling so much. Empaths need extra time to go inward and clear and recharge. It's important for empaths to find their balance and set clear boundaries on how much helping an empath does. So one study of highly sensitive, e.g. empathic therapists found on average they did not want to see more than a maximum of 14 clients per week and would prefer less if finances were not a consideration. So, finding one's own balance to help enough people for it to be satisfying, to if someone has a practice, to have a practice, and not too much so it becomes burdensome. There's actually a book called The Empath Survival Guide, so it is a thing. On the positive side, empaths can feel positivity more keenly, feel everything more keenly. The bhakti of advanced association, the energy of a kirtan, the love of a loved one, the energy of nature, trees, animals, etc. Especially empaths can often have a special connection with animals and wildlife in general. Empaths tend to be skilled healers and creative people. So some ways people resource and manage empathy include opening up to enough divine love coming through and out to counteract energy wanting to come in. So, so there's just more energy out and less energy in, less sponging. Grounding and creating shields. Some empaths have success with that, and you can Google, there's all varieties of shields. There's bubbles, there's shields with mirrors, there's many varieties of shields possible. Changing their archetype in the Akashic records. Someone facilitated that for me. There's still the mirror neurons, so there's that. Um, Internally stating an intention to not allow someone or people in. Um, in the creative wizardry training I did, it was like, I allow you in. No. Internally, like, I don't have a client come and I say out loud, I allow you in. No. So that's either in advance, could be out loud, or internally. Um, Extra sadhana and prayer. That's quite helpful. There are other ways of coping, and it benefits an empath to get creative if what they're doing is not working. So symptoms of may include feeling burdened, heavy, tired, and sick after working with people. I mean, this can include just hanging out with people or going to the shopping center, the supermarket or Walmart or something. Um, then the solution is to, invite spiritual support and clear, clear, clear. So it's a bit of a project for empaths. Empaths are often challenged by crowds, large shopping stores, like I mentioned, where there may be frenzied material energy. This is just good to know. And consider seeking some peaceful spot to recover and clear. Next session is listening, communication, and marriage. So, as a therapist or helper, it's important to listen well. So, I had to learn to be a better listener by, through the whole master's program and everything. It's so therapeutic for someone to be heard and understood, and have a session be about them. So this also supports when I'm working with couples to have better communication in their marriage. Active listening includes reflecting back some or all of what a person has heard. And so if I'm doing a couples session, this is a big part of what I'm facilitating, is that one person shares what's going on with them, and then the spouse needs to listen because they know they're going to be repeating back what they heard. They're going to be reflecting back what they heard. And then, as can happen, in marriage situations where there can be filters between the communication and what is actually heard, in session, it's possible for the spouse to be able to correct any misinterpretations and fill in any gaps that they missed. And then I will also include, after that, having the person who was heard express what that was like for them. To, did they feel heard and understood? And a lot of times in a facilitated session, that is the first time someone in a marriage or relationship situation has been heard and understood. So that can be quite powerful in and of itself. It sounds simple, and yet it can be really powerful and therapeutic for a couple. It can change relationships. I've seen, you know, I work a lot with individuals because I do the deep trauma work, but the couples I've worked with, there have definitely been couples who are ready to divorce and are doing really great now. So these kinds of things are very helpful for couples. Couples may have young parts triggered, and this can include a protective angry part or parts. I've noticed in my practice, a lot of times angry parts are teenage in age. I don't know if anyone's noticed in a particular relationship. It's like, is this an adult person or is this a teenager right now? So those younger parts can get triggered. So some things with anger, some of the, there's some cognitive remedies or ways to manage. One is visualizing a stop sign. Like if a couple's in an activated, angry situation, I teach my clients these tools, then just getting a pause, just getting a moment. So visualizing a stop sign. So for a devotee, it could also be a devotional image. It's hard to stay angry if you're visualizing your deity or a beautiful picture of your guru or Radha and Krishna. Visualizing a devotional image could be really helpful. Or a positive memory with the spouse. So that's a personal way to just go, okay, uh, we're fighting right now, and I'm remembering this wonderful positive memory with this person. It's hard to hold on to that level of activation and anger when remembering a really positive memory with that person. Taking a couple of deep breaths can help. Time out may be employed, and a statement that I like is, it's not productive to talk about this while we're both upset or activated. Um, Better to say we're both, even if it's just one person, we're both upset or activated. Let's talk about this when we both feel more calm. Now there might be a part that's going, but I need to know, when are we going to talk about this? So actually making an appointment to talk about it can help the parts go, okay, I'll get a chance to be heard. Um, and people can get a sense, or you can ask the people you're working with, how long does it take you to cool down when you get angry? So just making sure that if you do make an appointment to talk about something, that you leave plenty of time for cooling down. So gratitude can also be a great antidote for anger. I had a couple where every day, you know, I I taught them a gratitude process, and they were doing it every day in the morning, and it was transformational for their relationship. This is, we'll do it all together sometime. It is sort of, breathing in the quality of gratitude, breathing out and thinking of one thing you feel really grateful for. And just a couple of minutes of that, this really kind of builds up a bank of gratitude practice. So, yeah, the thought, I am so grateful for, fill in the blanks, can make it hard to stay angry. One option is listing the positive qualities of the spouse. So even in a difficult relationship, there's a reason the person is with that person. There are usually multiple reasons they're with that person. So practicing finding and doing a meditation and listing, I'm so grateful my spouse is helpful when, I'm so grateful my spouse is kind, whatever the positive qualities are. Um, Now, this can seem a little onerous, this next one. John Gottman, who is widely considered the foremost expert on marriages, he actually he studied couples in these labs where he made it look just like a vacation, except they were measuring everything. You know, if they went to the bathroom, that was captured and measured. If they peed, but and also, they had electrodes attached to them for their weekend getaway. So he's done a lot of research. He found that negative interactions with a spouse are so impactful that having a successful marriage requires a ratio of at least 5 positive interactions for every negative interaction. So, so someone who's helping a couple will seek to encourage them to increase the positive side of this scale. And also to have an awareness that if I want to, yell at my spouse, if I want to call my spouse names, if I want to, that it's going to be very impactful. And so, just saying, oh, sorry about that or whatever, uh, the person may need to make an effort to, uh, load a bunch of positive interactions after something like that. So, when I'm working with a couple, I'll ask them, when do you have the best times together? When is the problem not a problem? That's a solution focused therapy question. And then just sort of suggest more of that. So, um, so criticism can be, a little bit complicated for devotees because quite often we've heard that, if someone praises you, that's not good for you. If they criticize you, that's good. So at a certain, just recently we had a sadhu here at a certain level of Krishna consciousness, things flip. I mean, in the Gita, it says that a sage is equal in fame and infamy. So what I'm about to present is in the meantime. This is before, a level of advancement where everything kind of flips when, and also the studies were probably with Westerners um, uh, more than Indian culture. One time I was in Vrindavan and a sannyasi said, we don't do shame. We don't do guilt and shame. So I'm thinking, well, in America, we do. So it's a bit different. So criticism has been shown to increase the desire to change while making it, importantly to know, harder to change. There's, parts reasons for that. They've also studied criticism and found it impedes athletic performance. So living with criticism can lead to feeling inadequate. So the person will tend to not be at their best. When it comes to parts, criticism will tend to trigger defensive responses, protective parts, which can escalate conflict and erode relationships. Often the difference between a successful marriage or relationship and a miserable one can be the difference between two people trying to change each other through criticism and two people trying to encourage each other through appreciation. I remind individual spouses the only person a person can change is themselves. The only person you can change is yourself. And that's also the best path to inspire changes in a relationship. And this can apply to close friendship relationships also, all that I'm sharing. This shift takes practice both in session and at home. Commenting on what the other person did right. Thanking them for helpful behavior, no matter how small or repetitive. Possible examples. That was great how you handled that situation with patience. I need to practice this with my husband in cars because when he's in a car, and I've talked to other people, a lot of spouses do this. They'll like just be criticizing the other drivers and finding fault and oh this and oh that. And so rather than going, rather than having my sense of safety triggered by having all the flaws in other drivers pointed out, and getting kind of like, please stop doing that, don't do that. I could shift and focus on the times when, and when I do that, I notice it has a positive impact. They've studied positive encouragement is they've done other studies, positive encouragement is more effective than punishment, than criticism for changing behavior. So, um, so that was great how you handled that driving situation with patience. Um, I admire your compassion, helping that person. You are so sincere with your japa. Your kirtan is so heartfelt and inspiring. It uplifts the whole atmosphere of the house or the car. Thank you for washing the dishes. Thank you for taking out the trash. Thank you for buying the veggies and remembering the ghee. The more tedious the task, the more powerful the cumulative impact of gratitude and appreciation. So, um, and again, that takes practice. It's, shifting these habits. People can pick them up from parts that mimic their parents, how their relationship was handled. So many different ways we can pick up some negative habits. Um, when a spouse makes a mistake, that person is especially vulnerable to criticism. Maybe they're not feeling safe in that moment, especially if punishments were harsh growing up. That's a great time to step up and reassure them when they're at their most vulnerable. Uh, I used a significant example here. You dropped the laptop and broke it. I know it was an accident. Accidents can happen to anyone. You hardly ever break things, if that's true. How can I help you to feel better? Any variation on this theme can be helpful and also help heal the past trauma. So, I definitely have seen in my life the difference between someone who's had some childhood trauma around mistakes and, having someone come down really heavy on them, and someone who, had an understanding parent about mistakes, how they respond when they personally make a mistake. So this can't be emphasized enough. People seem to be programmed and notice and comment on what is wrong. So this is the survival reason for that. It's advantageous in survival situations. A storm is coming. We need to close the windows and bring in the crops. There's a fire. Run. So part of the programming for why people have a negative bias is that survival thing. However, it's the bane of relationships. It's not helpful in relationships. Encourage those couples you help to notice and comment on what is right. Now, when someone makes a, relational mistake, they say or do something hurtful to their partner, apologies are really valuable in relationships for successful relationships, successful marriages. People with a lot of shame may actually experience apology as a shame trigger. So I know it's counterintuitive, but some people who just don't apologize, it's because if they have a mountain of shame, it's like, oh, apology isn't enough. It's not useful. And just, maybe, it might not be conscious, but might have a tendency to not apologize. So also people who are or have been the recipients of blame may believe apologizing invites more blame. So a therapist or helper can facilitate apology between a couple and help them create a strategy to improve the chances of whatever it is not happening again. So I apologize for fill in the blank because I realize it was hurtful or harmful in this way. I realize what I did or what I said was hurtful or harmful in this way. I take full responsibility. You know, um, sometimes people will apologize, but in order to handle their own shame, they might start making excuses for what they did. So apologies with excuses are not as strong as apologies without excuses. Um, I will take these steps to ensure this doesn't happen again. So that's reassuring for the recipient of the apology. So the word now the wording, when I was like 19 or something, I took a word power course, uh, and it had an impact on me. So they didn't like I want this, I want that, because the word want is the same as lack. It's a synonym for lack. They preferred I would like, or I choose, or other words. Just um, so the words I apologize for may be less triggering for shame for someone than because the wording states an action, and saying I am sorry communicates a state of being. So people who have trouble apologizing might have an easier time if they use the more active I apologize for, rather than I am sorry. I am a sorry person. So the next section here is actually, let's take a couple of breaths because that's a lot of information. Just kind of, feel into your body if anything's been triggered, or just invite your internal world to relax. So this next section is a bit different. I took 2 levels of courses with a self-proclaimed wizard. So it was called Creative Emotional Wizardry. And he gave us a list of about 100 metaphysical obstacles and issues from what people do to each other. We are not going to do 100. That's the good news. Um, there are several that are very common that I've run across with clients on a fairly regular basis, and it can make a huge difference in someone's life, being aware of how to uh, check for it and how to clear it. So I sent out an email. I don't know if everyone read this part, but just to kind of practice ways of doing muscle testing. Um, so I find for me, muscle testing pendulums. At one point, I thought, oh, wouldn't that be great to have a yes, no pendulum? And I got the pendulum. I said, are you accurate? And it said, no. So for me, making my life decisions, I think I'm just supposed to make decisions and learn how to make better and better decisions as life goes on, than to, rely on some tool like that to make life decisions. However, that said, I have found that the muscle testing has been extremely accurate. And the more I do it, the more accurate, but extremely accurate for detecting metaphysical obstacles in myself and my clients, and knowing what, when, and what I need to clear. So I do this O-ring, which there's a video for that. So and the way I was taught was making a positive statement. you know my name is Chandrika. Yes. My name is Sam. No. so so yes stays in, no moves right on out. Um, there's a standing muscle test that I do sometimes with my clients where it's kind of a full body. The person stands up, faces north if they know which way north is, and then, you know, uh, they say, give me a yes, and ideally lean forward for a yes and backward for a no. Um, you don't want anyone falling over. So it's not like a full, like you're going to fall over or trip or something, but uh, so that's another way to do muscle testing, is that sort of full body. And someone who's getting used to it, they can try it with this, double check it with some other way of muscle testing. There's also something, I never really learned this one, but there's something about lifting that finger with some pressure on it from that finger. Um, it's all online. So the number one most common uh, metaphysical challenge is energy thieving, um, followed by, entities. And I'm just going to put all the various psychic attacks in one category and call it psychic attack. So um, people refer to energy thieving as energy vampires. I don't like that word because it sounds too predatory. So energy thieving is almost always unconscious. It's almost always not someone thinking, oh, I'm going to steal energy from here. I'm going to be a predator on people's energy. What I found is it's most often a part. So the person's not really conscious of what this part is doing, who, parts universally have a positive intention towards their person. So the ego state part of the person is out to help their person. And they're going, oh, my person needs more energy. And the part will grab the energy from a handy energy source and provide that energy for their person. So, um, with checking into to energy thieves, you can get very specific. It's a man, it's a woman, there's one, there's two, there's three, there's this. It's and then think of, oh, I think it's this person. It is this person. You can get very specific. It's also not necessary to know who it is. And it's particularly generally not a good idea to say anything to the person. So that's not necessary to clear it. Like, oh, you've been stealing my energy. You don't need to confront someone about that. Like I said, they're almost never conscious of that happening. So, and I've come across this quite a bit, like with clients drawing on my energy. Another aspect of it is that the person on the receiving end of this allows it on some level. Either the person reminds them of someone they care about, or so there's two things going on. There's the part getting energy for their person, and then there's the other person allowing it on some level, also almost always not conscious. So, um, I've come across this quite a bit with clients, drawing on my energy, and also clients being drained by others. With me, I've, clearing that with, this person, that person, the other person. Now it almost never happens. So it actually, just by repeated clearing, somehow I think something clears, so that almost never happens anymore. So I find it easily cleared with, incarnation, with the support of incarnations like Lord Nrsingadev, and or, demigods who clear obstacles. If it happens repeatedly with someone, so this happened with me actually. A friend reached out. We hadn't seen each other in a long time, and they had been through health challenges. So you know, this must have activated a part because I was, you know, getting so drained that I was feeling like I was getting sick. And then I cleared it. And then it happened again. And then I cleared it and it happened again. Um, and then I discovered through a session um, with someone that it's possible to, you know, in working with these things, often, you know, there's certain guidelines about not working on someone else or on their parts without their permission. However, what I've learned is that an exception can be made if if their part is violating your personal boundaries. So you can actually connect with a part, their part, who's doing the energy thieving, and teach that part how to get energy directly from God, you know, from from Krishna, from Super Soul, from you know, according to the person's belief system. With devotees, there's there's a number of options. um, so I remember the first time I did this, the part said, "That's a lot of energy." You're like, you know, like the part was like experiencing, you know, the divine energy. That's a lot of energy, and it seemed like the part was maybe starting to get a little overwhelmed by it. And and so, you know, we taught the part that you can just ask for the ideal amount of energy for your person. And the part was like, okay, oh, okay, that's better. Um, and that part and that person uh, never thieved my energy again. So, um, I already said these things. Let's see, if I'm working, yeah, if I'm working with a client or someone, I will reassure them they don't have to say anything to the person. Um, and one question I might ask is, how do you think the person will respond if you mention this? So a lot of times people say, oh, that would not go well. And so they have their own realization that it's best not to confront the person about stealing my energy or something. Um, so symptoms of having energy drained in this manner can include feeling exhaustion, which is out of proportion to life itself, and also viral symptoms without an actual virus. So, so I was actually, you know, I was in a training with the wizard, and I woke up and I thought, you know, I'm getting COVID. I'm like coughing, sniffling, feeling like, you know, really sick. And it was COVID time. So I thought, but I'm with this wizard. He's quite good at pulling viruses. So you know, I approached him and I said, you know, I think I've got COVID. Would you pull it, please? You know, I had a mask on. Um, and he said, "Oh, that's an energy vampire." You know, uh, I would say energy thief. He said that mimics viruses, and he just like pulled it, and instantly all my symptoms went away. So that gives you an idea of the, you know, the power of um, clearing energy thieves, you know, situations. And I've experienced that multiple times, clearing the energy thieving and having viral symptoms go away immediately. If the symptoms don't go away, there's a good chance it is a virus. So um, the next section, entities. So entities are common. Srila Prabhupada emphasized there are a lot of them in Kali Yuga. I think one time he said wall to wall. Um, they have desires and no body to fulfill them. So that's a suffering condition. So they're like, oh, here's a body, you know, uh, I'm hungry. I want to drink. I want this. I want that. So this can fuel addictions for people. So it's good to, particularly if you're working with someone who has drug or alcohol addictions, it's good to attend to entities. At least check, this person has one or more entities. Yes, that kind of thing. So, they're trying to enjoy through an embodied human. So they also, another reason devotees might have entities is they may know on some level that a devotee is in a position to help them get free and move on. Recently, at a birthday devotee gathering, devotees were talking about how the entities come around and want help from the devotees. So there was just like a casual conversation. Um, and this is, um, this may even be the majority. And then there's the lust for enjoyment that I mentioned. And then, occasionally there's malefic or vengeful spirits, or maybe bored spirits who just want to cause mischief. Um, if someone's accident prone, this is worth investigating and attending to. In Hawaii, they actually have a name for spirits that cause people to trip and things. Um, so if I'm doing an entity clearing with a devotee, I'll usually call on Lord Nrsingadev. With clients, I do it, according to their belief system. And the way I do it is I ask Lord Nrsingadev to purify and liberate or contain or vanquish the spirit. So that's just how I do it. You can come up with your own wording, but I like to cover, maybe this entity is ready to just be purified enough to be able to have some level of liberation. But then again, maybe they need to go to entity jail, be contained, or maybe they just need to be vanquished because they're malefic. And Lord Nrsingadev is very good at vanquishing demonic demons. Um, so now I've witnessed others sending entities into the light. And this is a common practice. And so the wizard who's very visually psychic sent someone's entity into the light, and the next day that same entity was back, and so he just did it again. But as devotees, we have some more powerful tools and connections to handle this, um, so that they don't go somewhere temporarily and come back later. Um, so psychic attack and muck. So muck is my word. um, so I include these if I'm checking for metaphysical obstacles and doing the muscle testing. Um, muck is just sort of an all-encompassing category, which includes just picking up stuff from other people and whatever might be hanging out in someone's system. Um, so then, I'll ask a deity to help clear the impacts of the psychic attack and any muck I may have picked up. So now we're going to do a group experiential meditation, visualization, and clearing. So just go ahead and, if you've learned a muscle testing, just go ahead and check for yourself. Um, I have one or more energy thieves. I have one or more entities. I'm deliberately doing a yes on this. Um, uh, I'm dealing with a psychic attack. Uh, I have some muck. Actually, that's almost always a yes for me being an empath. um, so with this journey we're about to do, feel free. Let me give you a little bit of time just to do some checking if you'd like, check for yourself.
Can you teach us how to do this? I don't know what this is exactly.
Um, so yeah, so this is online, and I sent a link for this. But for now, um, so my left thumb and index finger are forming a ring. And then my right hand index finger is stuck inside the ring. And so this is, this is the one the wizard used and ended up being my favorite of the options. There are options. I make a positive statement. If the answer is yes, it'll stay in the ring. If the answer is no, the muscle will let it go through. So it's a way of checking one's intuition about something. So, you know, um, I have uh, an energy thief impacting me. That's a no. This time I'll do no, so you just know what a no looks like. But I'm deliberately overriding the I have one or more entities bothering me. I have I'm experiencing psychic attack. No, I have muck. No. Uh, so that's the no. I already did what yes is. Yes is it stays right in there. Yes, yes, yes. So,
Well,
and you can experience this journey, whether or not you have anything. So, it's good practice. You will come across people who are dealing with this kind of stuff. So with this journey we're about to do, feel free to use your imagination and senses that come naturally for you. You know, some people are really visual, get clear visuals. I personally don't. And we, if it's an urgent question for now, if not, we will have questions and answers later. Surid, is this a question you need addressed now? Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Sorry, it's about just the muscle test because you're saying if it's a yes, it stays in. And it
Uh-huh.
seems like when it's yes, if I have an attack, then my muscle won't be that strong to keep it in.
Right.
So, and I saw that also in I think that was also confusing for me in the yes or no in the website when you sent, because it seems like when it's the muscle is weak, then it will be a no, yes. But when the muscle is strong, that's it's not. For the negative thing, when the muscle is strong, then it will be a no, isn't it? I mean, I'm just a little confused with that because I thought you were saying that, say, for example, if I have an entity attack, it's yes, and that was when it's inside, stays
Yes,
inside.
that's accurate. When it stays inside, that's strong. It's a yes. I mean, that's just you know how this one is done. And and again, that's how I was taught. So, but feel free to use whatever works for you.
All right, I just how to get the answer if it's yeah. Okay, so that's a yes, that it should be. All
Mm.
right.
Yeah, so some people experience things more kinesthetic. That's fine. Or you can uh, just go for imagination. Uh, maybe have a real experience of connection. Um, Either way is fine, and either way will produce a good result. So you might want to close your eyes for this one. Imagine energy coming up from the earth and through your feet, through your body, energizing your energy centers and coming to right above the crown of your head. Then imagine a space travel vehicle of your own design, um, It could be a bubble, could be made out of crystal, could be made out of anything, could be a flower airplane. Have it be, if it's enclosed, have it have windows so you can see as you're traveling. Notice the details and colors of your ship and what it feels like to be inside. Now go ahead and rocket up through the Earth's atmosphere, through our planetary system, through the Milky Way galaxy, through and past the other galaxies, noticing the millions and millions of stars, and through to the edge and through the edge of this universe and the layers of light. Now past other universes, noticing the presiding Lord Brahmas of the various universes. Keep going up, up, through the heavenly planets. Notice Mount Kailash, and you might want to offer pranams. Then keep traveling higher to the spiritual sky. Notice what it feels like to travel through the vast, vast spiritual sky, much more vast even than all the material universes. Now notice a particular planet in the spiritual sky calling to you. You'll feel drawn to a particular planet as the best place to clear and heal in this moment. Notice your surroundings, the sights, the feelings, the sounds, and or fragrances. Notice who greets you and offer respects. You can offer dhanavats. You can offer a prayer if you'd like. Perhaps it's the presiding deity of the planet where you have arrived. Now ask, if it's in my highest interest, please pull and clear any energy thief or thieves. Resolve anything unresolved that may have led to this. Clear any vulnerabilities that may have led to my allowing this. Gift the part or parts who have taken my energy with the wisdom to bring energy from the source of all energy. So allow time for clearing. You may give your witnessing, you may give your pinky finger a suggestion that it will rise automatically when this is complete, or you may just go with how you feel. And when my pinky rises, I'm just going to go to the next one. And now, I didn't mention this before because it's not, it's a little different. Now, if it's in my, thank you, thank you, thank you. And now, if it's in my highest interest, please pull and clear any cords and attachments that no longer serve me. In Hawaiian, they're called aka cords. So when we say we're bonded to someone or corded, sometimes those cords can be an obstacle on the path of bhakti. They can be even left over from past. It's in my highest interest. Please pull and clear any cords and attachments. Resolve anything unresolved. Clear any vulnerabilities that have led to my being courted. And I or we will witness. I remember one time a long time a long time ago, I was doing some cord clearing for someone when I was a massage therapist, and I noticed this one cord connecting right to the person's solar plexus, and it was like a thickness of a tree trunk or something. And I had this vision, these little like cherub angels or Gandharvas or something you know, were wanting to help with the clearing. And one of them just looked at that and turned his little sword into a chainsaw and went zzz. I'm like, oh, angels can use power tools. It was really funny. But so on to entities. If it's in my highest interest, please pull, purify, and liberate, contain, or vanquish any entity or entities impacting my system. And I or we will witness this happening, this clearing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, if this doesn't clear an entity, on your own time, you may want to meet the entity and ask what it wants before, doing another clearing. This is a personal choice. So I have clients who some want to have a chat with an entity who's been hovering around them, um, causing some problems, and some don't. So psychic attack. If it's in my highest interest, please clear any psychic attacks and impacts of psychic attack and residue. Please pull and clear and witness. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It is done, it is done, it is done, and so it is. In your own words, offer appreciation, offer obeisances. And now return to your ship and go ahead and jet back through the spiritual planets, through the heavenly planets, through the material universes. Once again, seeing the Lord Brahmas, offer pranams as you go along back through the material universes to our universe. Our Brahma, we've been taught, has 4 heads. And go ahead and go through the layers of light on the edge of this universe, and then through and past all the various galaxies to the Milky Way galaxy, through the Milky Way galaxy to our planetary system, through the edge of the Earth's atmosphere, down through the Earth's atmosphere to above your head, and just go ahead and travel down to the area of your heart or wherever you would like to be. And now, once you're there, go ahead and welcome some grounded energy from the earth, or some people find it really grounding to send some roots into the earth. And we're back. So, in future, you can also repeat for gunk. If someone experiences psychic attacks repeatedly, it's good to check for a target. Target might be on their front and it looks like a target, or it could be on the back, could be one on the front and the back. The wizard taught us, and I found this to be true when it's come up, it's targets are best unscrewed, either clockwise or counterclockwise, unscrewed and pulled out and cleared. So so looking at time, we could do now, or another time we could do a little soul spotting, brain spotting demo, or we can do questions and answers. So go ahead and physically raise your hands, or click on the hand raise if you would like to do questions and answers right now. Rasangi, you'll need to unmute, and Pranada will spotlight you.
So no one else. So this is so interesting that we have to believe that we have the power. We have mental power to get rid of this stuff, right? We have to have some faith that psychically we have the ability to do this. Otherwise, it seems like hocus pocus, right? Even to us devotees who are so like plugged into all kinds of spiritual stuff. So, I mean, I like it and I believe it. I'm not sure I could see myself introducing it to people without a little bit more experience myself and faith in it. But I know we have great mental power. We have no idea we have. We have the power of the mind is really big.
Mm.
And so, do you have anything to say about that? Like how to kind of make it more mainstream or like routine or
Yeah, so this is not particularly mainstream, and this seminar is for devotees who want to help devotees. So I've made the assumption that there's certain spiritual beliefs and spiritual awareness, and with clients, the metaphysical, I have done it with clients, and they are spiritually inclined clients. So I definitely don't, impose metaphysics on someone who, doesn't believe in metaphysics. So I totally get what you're saying. And it's a valid concern for sure. And as far as having the personal mental power to deal with these things, I guess the answer to that is it depends. Some people have no issues with any of it. And they have a mental power. They have some people don't even have a lot of mental power, but they just have a very closed system. So they're very protected. So they don't have these issues. So I'm certainly not going to do some clearing with a devotee or with anyone um, unless, I can tell through intuition and I get through muscle testing that they're dealing with something like that. And when they have been dealing with something like that, and it's been very transformational for the person.
Amazing. Wonderful. Thank you. I mean, you could also blow a conch shell at the end. That disperses evil spirits too, right?
That's yet another resource. I am not a conch shell blower. I have no skill or ability.
It worked. It worked at John Lennon's estate anyway. That's all I know.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, I mean, all these resources are really, really wonderful. Uh, thank you, Rasangi. Who's next? Isabella?
Hi, yeah. So one thing that came up for me during that meditation was actually an experience I've had with a psychic attack from someone who is also in my local devotee community. And then
Mhm.
like this internal conflict of like I'm like trying to cut that cord and clear that psychic attack. And then, right, if it was someone else in some other context, I would just think, okay, well, I just won't go to that event. I just won't go into that community, or I won't interact with that person. But then having to like this internal conflict of, oh, well, I don't want to not interact with my devotional community, even, right? Because I can't just, I'm not going to go up to that person and say, I don't want you. Like, that's not my right to say to somebody that, right? But then I'm also in that. So it's just a curiosity I thought of that I'm sure other devotees might experience of that, maybe having some kind of interaction with somebody in that context. And then, right, how do you navigate like still maybe having to interact with someone who is engaging in that way with you, like in kind of having psychic attacks from someone in the devotional community, but can't, right? Like I don't want to necessarily make that choice of, oh, I'm just not going to go. Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So, I mean, the more ease you have with clearing, chances are the safer you'll feel interacting with the person or being in the same space with the person. Um, Also, as we get further into the seminar and we have more, parts work and parts, it's very similar to the energy feeding in the sense that, um, if it's a part doing the psychic attack, chances are it is, that you can do your own meditation and interact with that part and see if the part is willing to uh, you know help their person in some other way. I mean, in internal family systems, they say all parts are welcome, not all behaviors are welcome. So, and some people have success with shielding. I've never been a great shielder myself, but uh, if you're wanting someone to learn from the attacking, there's a way of doing a shield that has mirrors on the outside so that whatever attacks it gets sort of reflected back for the person's learning. You can kind of program the shield that way and see if that works, and maybe that will work for you. So those are some possibilities.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Suri.
So I'm not sure if that's in that category. Like someone say who constantly needs your attention and like at all costs, and like is that going to be, and it's drain you? Like is that going to consider to be an energy thief too?
No, not an energy thief, but if someone's doing a psychic attack, they're violating your boundary. You know, it's a violation. So, I mean, it's your individual decision. You certainly don't have to go along with this particular belief, but one way of viewing it is that it's okay to give some attention to a person's part who is doing something like that. You don't have to confront the person. So that's one way of viewing it, and I've personally had success with that, and you know, um, other people have had success with that. So it's a compassionate way to approach it. You know, you're seeing that, you know, that a part of someone is in pain and they're coping by attacking. Um, and maybe there's a way to help that part shift their role, so they're doing something differently. You know, chances are the part's intention is to protect their person. And attacking is one way that parts and people sometimes, you know, protect themselves. Can be out of fear, can be out of envy, you know, so many different causes. But if you ask a part, is is attacking psychically helping your person feel better? The part might just say, no, actually, it's not working very well. You know, but we'll get more into that when we get into the IFS.
So
So
is
you
that
will
you,
learn
you
more,
do
no
that?
worries.
You basically do a part work with the person's part without their being present. Is that what you were when you
Exactly.
were like? Because I was talking about when you were where we were talking about connecting with someone who's drain your energy. So is that's what that's a process that you're doing. Like connecting with the partner, you're doing the process of IFS, but without them basically being there.
Yes, without their, you know, that way you don't have to confront them. You don't have to bring it to their awareness. You're just, you know, the part knows what the part is doing. The person doesn't always know what their part is doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you'll show us more about that. I mean, I'm curious about
Yes.
that more, how to deal with that, because that's a very strong, yeah.
Yeah, the plan is to do 4 full classes on parts work and internal family systems. So yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Sarit.
Thank
Good
you.
question. Catherine. And this will be the last one. You'll need to unmute. You'll need to unmute. There you go.
Yeah, I just saw somehow I pushed the wrong thing. I'm gonna let you all in on something. I'm a psychic, and I'm wondering about the O-ring thing because I'm kind of science-minded, and I don't want to be like, you know, poo-pooing things, but I kind of feel a little bit more like Rasengi. I'm very skeptical. Even being psychic, which is kind of strange, you know, but I have both of those, the psychic and the science part of me. And so, but there's, you know, I think what can resolve that is the spiritual, because I think rather than like O-ring, which I just don't get it. But I would ask Super Soul if there's some kind of, you know, and Super Soul does seem to answer, you know, I mean, that's the whole thing about like what's going on, and if we're going to pray to Lord Nisringade, we might pray, you know, might as well pray to Super Soul for to just find out like what's happening. Is this an attack of some kind, or is somebody because right now it's so serious in the world with, you know, all kinds of grooming and trafficking and, social media where kids are really being attacked, by people. So there's just a ton of like really kind of crazy things. So, and also I was wondering what leaving a witness meant. What's that about? Like,
Oh, not leaving a witness, but just you witnessing the clearing happening.
oh,
Yeah, that's all that was. I'm glad you clarified that. And I agree with you. If someone is intuitive and psychic and all they need to do is ask Super Soul and they can hear that answer because of their finely honed intuition or psychic ability, that is superior. So yeah, the other tools are handy for people who don't have your level of intuitive gifts.
Well, I think I sometimes I picture it like having a red phone on your desk. And sometimes I mean like Prabhupada, I mean if Krishna wants you to know something, he'll let you know. So I feel like it's something anybody can do, but you just kind of have to have like put that phone on your desk, and when it lights up, it's like, hello. And Krishna will talk to you because it's just amazing. But Krishna's in your heart. That's the way I look at this. I don't know any other way to explain it, but he's right there. So.
Mm. Well, that's wonderful. And also I welcome people bringing in their own, resources. So imagining a super soul Krishna phone on your desk,
Yeah. Yeah.
that sounds really wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody. I hope you are enjoying and benefiting from these classes, and I will see you next week.